Iowa has landed its quarterback for the portal class of 2024. What does that mean about the rest of the quarterbacks on campus? And is Iowa looking for more? We talk about Hank Brown's commitment and a whole lot of portaling today. Locked on Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, hit that subscribe button. Just takes a moment and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, Iowa got the commitment we have been waiting for and we have been speculating about all week long. Hank Brown, the former three-star quarterback recruit coming out of high school, has made his commitment to the Iowa Hawkeye program. As we talked about Hank throughout the course of this week, he was on campus and was there for the Iowa State matchup last night. He was in attendance for that one, snapped a picture. Try not to be too weird, but that's what you do, I guess, when you're a media member like me. And fire that up on the old X machine. But he was there in attendance, and going in even to the visit, it sounded like this thing was really traveling down the path. That this was, I don't want to say imminent, but as long as everything went according to plan, that's exactly how it was going to be. And that's how it turned out. So, going to talk a lot about Hank Brown here. Also, going to take a look at some of the other portal targets that are out there. And there's an incredibly intriguing one. Tom Kakert from Hawkeye Report, part of On 3, deep into the recruiting world and the transfer portal world. He's going to join us coming up here in just a little bit. But let's talk first about Hank Brown. 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2 starts as a redshirt freshman at Auburn this last season. We talked about there's one good, one bad. The good came against New Mexico. The bad came against Arkansas. Read into that what you will. As we've gone deeper throughout the week and not just watching the clips and the game film and those kind of things of Hank Brown, a couple of things I think as I've gone deeper into this, I think I'm realizing a little bit more. The big question is Hank Brown, is he coming in to be the starter? Is he coming in to compete for the starting job? Or is he a developmental piece? And I think there is more of a developmental component to him than I originally thought. You see a guy start 2 games as a redshirt freshman. Peyton Thorne, the former Michigan State quarterback, was already there. And I think it led down the path of at least my speculation that this was going to be a guy that they thought was going to be QB1 number 1, game number 1 next year. And I'm not so sure about that now. First, this is a guy that didn't even start until his senior year of high school. He was behind a quarterback when he moved to Nashville, behind a quarterback that went on to Cincinnati, had a lot of big-time offers. But I think the other part that's really intriguing is before he'd ever played a high school game, at least as a starter, he already had offers from Pitt, Minnesota, and Illinois, and a couple other places. So I think that leads to the credence. One other thing that I continue to see is there's been a bunch of comments from his high school coach. And Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl winning quarterback, bit of a bust as a quarterback overall, but won a Super Bowl. He was his high school coach. Not only that, but Trent Dilfer, before he became a high school coach and now is coaching at UAB at the collegiate level, he was a guy that ran the Elite 11 camp. He was one of the head people, not just picking the guys that went there, but then going through and talking about the guys that had the evaluation tools, what they were learning, the guys that moved on then to the final camp and the finalists of the Elite 11. So he watches a ton of quarterbacks. He's seen a ton of quarterbacks. And yes, with the caveat, he was his high school coach, and you're going to probably pump up your guys a little bit more than normal. But listening and reading a couple of comments from Trent Dilfer, I got even more excited about Hank Brown. Now, if you want Hank Brown to be Brad Banks, you want Hank Brown to be even CJ Beathard, that's not what he is. He doesn't have the legs that I think some people are just completely enamored with. But what excites me most is the arm talent. And Iowa has lacked that category, arm talent, not just that can make all the throws, because they haven't had a guy like that on campus in a half decade now. but can make all the throws with accuracy. One of the strengths as a thrower is deep throws with accuracy. You can throw it deep, that's one thing, but actually being able to do it accurately. We know that Nate Stanley struggled mightily at that. That was one of his big deficiencies, was down the field throwing. And Spencer Petras had the arm, didn't have the other component, the accuracy, to go along with it. Hank Brown has those qualities. And when people talk about him, that's the one thing they talk about first, is when you're talking about as the football player, that component, the arm talent, being able to make all the throws and having accuracy to go along with it. Another thing I thought was really intriguing was leadership. Look, we got duped by Cade McNamara. It's fine to admit it. We see this guy at Michigan, Big Ten championship. He's going to come in, solidify the quarterback position for Iowa after Petras. That's what the excitement was. But another thing that we thought we were getting, at least I certainly did, with Cade McNamara, was the leadership part of it. That this was going to be a guy that was going to be able to help Iowa football and rallying the troops, being a leader of men, doing the things you want out of your quarterback. Well, we know it didn't go very well in Michigan. We know how that eventually played out. There was a lot of negativity that surrounded it. And then we see how it happened here. Okay, going back and asking for more money, more assurances. The comments that he made when Brendan Sullivan came to campus, and just on and on and on. He was not the guy that Iowa thought. But when you talk about Hank Brown, one other thing that you hear from a ton of people is he's a quality human being. He is a kid that gets it and understands what it's like, what you need to be a true leader. Not a phony, but a real leader. I don't think he's going to be a guy that is going to be your day one starter, that he's going to be the guy that's going to take the opening snaps next year on the first game of the year against Albany. I don't believe that is the case. Will it be Brendan Sullivan? We'll see. If you've been a listener to Locked On Hawkeyes, you know I don't believe that Brendan Sullivan has everything you need to be certainly a top flight quarterback in terms of throwing. The legs excite you. He can make throws, and he's been accurate in his career, but the reading of the defense has been something that's been an issue. You saw that in his start against UCLA, just two inexplicable throws across the middle, throws he can't make, and he made two of them. And that remains my concern with him. I see Hank Brown more of a developmental guy. That'll have a chance to compete, obviously, for the starting job, and that arm talent, boy, that gets you excited. That leads to the final question about the quarterback spot, and that is Iowa done? So as it currently sits, Tim Lester's come in, the new offensive coordinator, and he has completely got rid of the old ingredients, and he's brought in his own. It started with Deacon Hill, gone. Now Cade McNamara, gone. Marco Lionez, gone. They're clearing that thing out. Now he's getting his guys. Not a number one, but he's bringing in the kind of guys that he believes will be able to lead that offense and fix the woes of the passing game, because it's been brutal. We all know it's been brutal. Goes without saying to us Hawkeye fans. We know how bad it's been. I believe in Tim Lester. I believe in his ability to find quarterbacks. Brendan Sullivan, Jackson Stratton, Hank Brown. Those are your three that realistically have a chance to be players for them. And then developmentally, Jimmy Sullivan, the redshirt freshman, comes in. He'll be in January. He'll be an early enrollee. Also bringing in Pat Fitzgerald's son will be a walk-on on the team. So they got a lot of dudes and a lot of guys that throw. And you want to add with this new scholarship roster limit, the scholarship, well, you can do what you want, but the roster limit of 105, do you want to dedicate another one of those 105 spots to another quarterback? I believe if Iowa can find a guy, maybe a one-year stopgap guy, that they will go after him. A guy that Tim Lester really likes. A guy that Tim Lester thinks will be able to help solve the issues in the passing game. And if that means that Brendan Sullivan departs and plays his final season somewhere else, I think they'd be okay with that. Again, speculation, but that's what I believe. We'll see how this turns out. Doesn't sound like they're done. They're at least continuing to look at quarterback, but there's a whole lot more, including a big, literally and figuratively, prospect that is on campus. Tom Kakert from Hawkeye Report. He joins us coming up next here. Talked to Tom earlier in the day. This was before the news of Hank Brown came in. So if you're a little bit confused when he's mentioning him, this was before Hank Brown officially made his commitment to the Iowa program. But Tom's got some great information on a number of different prospects. We'll talk a little basketball as well. Tom Kakert from Hawkeye Report as we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by Gametime. Told you I was at Carver Hawkeye Arena last night, Thursday evening, watching the Hawkeyes blow it late. But boy, there's something about being there in person, hearing the sneakers squeak, hearing the hollering, all the chants and cheers. There's something special about being at a basketball game. And Gametime, they have you covered with tickets. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks. Makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. And Gametime Picks filters out the fluff, shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love all the different areas of the Gametime app. So easy to use. It's simple. It is on point and exactly what you're looking for. And it doesn't matter. It could be a basketball game, could be the bowl game coming up, could be a whole lot more, but they got you covered with music tickets, theater, and a whole lot more on the Gametime app. Plus, they're all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front. Don't have to worry about those surprise fees at checkout. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and make sure you use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's going to get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
There's an answer. Good to talk to you, Tom. Basketball obviously coming up. It's a crazy football time of year. With the Bill Belichick to North Carolina, somebody from our sales department put this little nugget in my head to ask you guys. Does this open up the door for a Belichick Ferentz reunion, not Pops, but Junior? Brian Ferentz to North Carolina. You know that Ferentz and Belichick are very, very close. Seniors, very, very close. Does that make sense, Brian Ferentz?
I
in
think,
some respects?
Oh, absolutely. Tight end coach, offensive line coach, something like that. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that makes a lot of sense there. Belichick had good things to say about Bribo when he was out there.
Yeah.
So
Coach tight ends, right?
I don't think that's a stretch at all.
Yeah. Could you see that, Tom?
You guys must have been reading the text chain between myself and a couple of the other Iowa beat writers.
Really?
Because this was a main topic of discussion that we all thought, wonder when Brian's going to show up in Chapel Hill, because it just seems like a natural fit.
Yep.
I even wondered, I wonder if he'd hire James. James played for him for
he did.
8 years or something. I mean, he'd hired James. I kicked around with a friend of mine this morning. I wonder if he'd hire Chris Doyle as a strength coach.
Whoa. Never thought about that. We'll see how it's.
Chris is trying to get back out there.
Yeah.
And just, he did the interview with Keith.
Mm-hmm. You just wonder, because how many years ago was it that Herb tried to hire him, or did hire him at Jacksonville? Mm-hmm. And it lasted, a couple of weeks?
4 years ago?
Was it that many years? Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Obviously, Carver Hawkeye, we'll get to the basketball in a second, but I want to get to one of the spectators. Actually, there's a couple of potential soon-to-be Hawkeyes, but obviously the quarterback's got most people's attention. Hank Brown, Tom Kakert, when does this become official? Is it close? Is it done? And we just don't know it yet.
Yeah, what I was told yesterday was, as long as either side didn't kind of get cold feet, that it was going to be, this was a marriage. And I think they're going to get that Landon Kitchen kid too, the kid from Northwest Missouri State, big lineman. I think they're going to end up landing him. So, so they'll be off to a little bit of a start. And then, they've just, something I mentioned on our boards last night that was told, Rice offensive tackle Ethan Onawana, who is one of the top prospects out there in the portal at the offensive tackle position. He's in Iowa City today.
He is. Oh, that's a big one, Tom, because that was a guy that going to command some money, one of the more coveted guys. And Jennings Dunker, he's not a left tackle, right? I don't think he has the speed to be that. He's a right tackle, kind of pigeonholed there. You put that dude at 355 pounds out of left tackle.
That's how big he is.
You get ring Logan Jones back. You got Stevens back. You got Pieper in there. This offensive line looking pretty good.
This kid's an NFL player.
Yeah. Is he really?
He could potentially. I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me if he would have just went to the NFL. I mean, but he's 6'6", 345, allowed just one sack and 294 pass block snaps this year for the Rice Owls. So, and that's going up against some pretty good players. So he's definitely. If they could get him, there were some rumors that he was going to go to Oklahoma this weekend, but he is in Iowa City, Iowa right now.
That was one of those guys where you see him in the portal. All right, Iowa followed him. It's like, well, that's unattainable. This is going to be to hear that he's already on campus. That's exciting. That really is. So we go through a bunch of other help. You mentioned Kitchen, quarterback. If they land Hank Brown, are they still shopping? Are they still looking for one more at the quarterback position?
I think so. But it's not like it's going to be a priority. But if the right guy is there and if you feel like he's going to be a great fit, then you go get him. The issue that you start to have, though, is, will it just kind of Brendan Sullivan just go, you know what, I'm out of here. And then you're kind of like with Hank Brown and another guy. I think the remarkable thing is they have cleaned out that quarterback room in less than a year.
That's remarkable.
Tim Lester has he's cleaned house and done it in a very professional manner. But, Deacon leaves, Tommy Pulaski leaves, Cade's gone, Lane's gone, Reeser got him out of there. The only guys that are left are guys that Tim Lester brought in now. Everybody else out the door.
For both of you guys, Quinn Ewers is done at Texas, apparently. He wants to play college football, though, but the Texas apparently has moved on to Arch. There's a rumor out there, not sure if the validity, the legitimacy of it, that there's a Big Ten. $4 million from some Big Ten school. Michigan's got their guy.
Yes.
Oregon's about to lose their guy.
They're taking Billy Edwards. Well, they're taking Edwards, the Maryland quarterback now, too.
The two of them, right. You're right. Yeah. But Underwood is the deal breaker, the money grabber. Ewers to Oregon makes sense. It's a Big Ten school.
Ewers back to Ohio State.
Well, can he though?
Why not?
How much did he steal from him when he was there the first time?
They're all stealing money.
I know he was driving a Lambo around.
But they need a quarterback. I mean, I guess, right?
And who's going to have $4 million to pay? Outside of the Buckeyes and Michigan.
Oregon?
Ducks. The Ducks.
That would be them.
Isn't Dante Moore out there?
He is. They've been making him the heir apparent.
Oh, he's going back to Ohio State, beat Michigan. They'll make it work.
They must not be in love with Julian Sand, huh?
I guess. Yeah, I guess not. We'll see. Hey, what's Hank Brown going to cost? Any idea?
It's
$250,000,
standard, I think. Nah, I don't even think that. I think he's probably just a standard, just government issued number. I was told something that was interesting the other day that Iowa's going to get like how they're going to parse up that $20.5 million that they're going to have to parse up between the athletics, and that it sounds like Beth Getz is going to go full steam ahead with football getting probably 75% of it. So
that's good
for her.
That would be 14, 15, somewhere around there, and that's amongst the 105. So that's going to give them some room to move around and kind of take care of a lot of people.
they definitely need to do that. I mean, in order to compete at the highest level of college football, because I was concerned some of the pencil pushers over there, and well, it might turn out that we have to give the same amount depending on the number of women athletes. And that means 54% of the student population in Iowa City is female. That means 54% of the money. You're not competing then. You're not going to be able to compete in football doing that. Could it turn out that way? Possibly. But until it does, I think Beth Getz is doing the right thing here. You have to get in front of that, and you have to keep football. That's the front step of your university.
What they've done, I think, is based on revenue generation kind of
makes sense
methodology, which makes the most sense. You know, they're the sport that generates the revenue.
Cubs deal is done. Jeff Passan.
All
right.
Reporting that Kyle Tucker will be patrolling right field at Wrigley Field.
Tom, I got one for you on the hoop side. Tough loss. Had a chance of a signature victory, maybe their only chance at a top 10 win all season long in that one last night. Yet I walked away frustrated the way that it turned out as a Hawkeye fan, but not overly discouraged. This team is a lot better than I thought. Brock Harding's a lot better defensively than I thought. Both the transfer additions have been godsends. I think this Iowa basketball team is not pretty good. I think they have a chance to be really, really solid, like top third in the Big Ten good. Top six. Is that a stretch?
No, I think they're pretty good. The quibble I had with Fran last night was I thought he limited his bench too much. There's no reason in the world that Price Sanford shouldn't have played 10 minutes in the second half. I mean, he had to have been out there, and for him not to be out there, that's on Fran. He control. You know, I always joke that Fran always says, "I should have played him more."
Yeah.
Well, you're the guy that makes that decision, so you know, you play him more. Then don't say I should have played him more. Just do that. And they got. I thought they got tired. The 1 of 15 stretch with last 5 minutes until Harding throws in a couple late. That was the ball game. And they had done a great job of kind of answering Iowa State every time the Cyclones came at them of batting them back. And then they just couldn't, and they didn't get it. They got some good looks. They were just tired. You know, Peyton had a couple good looks. He couldn't make them. And Josh Dix had some shots, couldn't make them. Brock had some opportunities. That was where and that's, you know, a good, deep, talented, very good defensive Iowa State team just dismantled them in the last 5 minutes. And that was it.
Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, part of On3. Anything you'd like to promote, Tom? Obviously, you're full speed ahead with the portal, so it'll be busy at Hawkeye Report.
Yes, going to be busy. We're portaling, ready for things to go there, and I'm very excited about this Cubs trade. And it looks like Cody Bellinger might be going to the Yankees.
Yes, that sounds like it. Yeah. Have you seen the return? I've not seen that.
I have not seen anything yet, but that's okay.
Yep.
Just got a really good outfielder.
Yep, and
Even if it might be, and we got a chance to re-sign him. So I'm happy. I'm a Cubs fan that's happy for once.
And Bellinger's 2 years that you're getting off the books.
Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, joining us. Always appreciate Tom and all the great conversation with him, talking Hawkeyes, and he threw in the Cubs a little bit there as well. Again, that was earlier today before the news of Hank Brown. If you just caught that part of it and missed out, yes, Hank Brown has made his commitment. But really, I thought the biggest part of that conversation, Ethan Onawana potentially making his way to Iowa City. Looks like he's on a visit. We're going to talk about that a little bit more because it's not just about Hank Brown. There are other prospects out there. Iowa looking to attack the transfer portal and off to a pretty good start. More portal talk when we continue and a look at the weekend ahead. Locked on Hawkeyes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle all the NFL action all season long with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers, you can bet $5. You're going to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right there on the same page where you place your bets. And not just the NFL, they got you covered. Sunday, Iowa back on the hardwood again as they take on New Orleans. How about the Iowa women against Michigan State? Yeah, they got you covered there, and a whole lot more. Army-Navy coming up this weekend. We'll get our first bowl game of the weekend, and of course the college football playoff. All there on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Just takes you a moment and really does help us with the metrics and getting more people watching us and seeing what we're doing here on the Locked On Network. Mention the offensive tackle from Rice, Ethan Onawana. We'll get it right if he commits. How about that? So when the names were starting to filter in, Kelvin Bell's following this guy, this position coach is following this guy, and all this information's coming in. This was maybe at the top of my list. Yeah, there's big time prospects out there, but it really felt unattainable because Ottawa is, some people believe, the best offensive tackle that is the transfer portal. So he allowed one sack last year in 294 snaps, passing snaps. Only 2 hurries out of those 294. He played right tackle for 2 years, flipped over to the left side this season. Did it Rice, who had a better season than they have in past years. They took on Texas. He's played against good teams. It's not just playing in the American. There's been more to it than that. I didn't think that this was somebody that Iowa had a realistic chance at. And he's visiting. And he was supposed to visit Oklahoma this weekend. Instead, he's in Iowa City. Jennings Dunker likely cannot play left tackle, at least not at a high level. Right tackle, sure. I mean, but he's more of that kind of in between. Is he a guard? Is he a right tackle? He played at a high level before his injury at right tackle this year. I just don't think he has the requisite athleticism to be a left tackle. And because of that, you keep him right tackle and you bring in a guy like this. Now you're cooking. Logan Jones comes back. We talked about Logan when his decision came down. A guy much maligned, including from yours truly. And he took a big step. Took a step last year, took a bigger step, and then you get him back. Bo Stevens has started a ton of games. We saw Cade Pieper out there a lot. Suddenly this offensive line, you're kind of getting excited about it again. And after the massive improvements we saw this year from the offensive line, health was a part of it, and Caleb Johnson had a lot to do with it as well. I think you get excited about that. Regardless of who the quarterback is, you got a good old line, you're giving yourself a chance. But it can't just be that. There has to be more that is done in the portal. Landon Kitchen sounds like very close to a commitment, possibly from him. He was set up to visit Iowa State this weekend, canceled that, is visiting Iowa for the second time. He was in town for the Nebraska game from Northwest Missouri State. One thing we did see with a guy like Zach Van Valkenburg, those guys that are jumping up from the D2 level up to the Big Ten level, it's a big jump. And we'll see if he's going to be ready to go. But regardless, a lot of people after Kitchen. Wisconsin, Oklahoma State, Cal, Iowa State, Kansas, UNLV, amongst the ones that are after him. Ottawa, that's exciting. Really, really exciting about him. Jonah Pace is coming in this weekend. He's the defensive tackle we talked about earlier this week from Central Michigan. Need help inside with the graduation of Y.A. Black, and that would be a big one. Trayvon Rudolph, just touched on him momentarily in yesterday's show. Wide receiver, speed guy, 5'10", 187. They need more speed at that wide receiver position. Really like that. And another intriguing one making his way into campus this weekend is Rayon Strader. That's the one guy with the long arms that we talked about. 6 foot tall, 6'8" wingspan though, and had a ton. I think it was 17 pass deflections this year. Is in the top 10 in the country in that category. Now, I was not alone. There's a lot of other programs after, but it's going to be a potential making a big step up there. Exciting time. It really is. In this transfer portal, Iowa is heavily involved. Portal Kirk is back. He did it 2 years ago, and he's got some work to do with this year's squad. Going to be a fun time. Basketball coming up this weekend. Big matchup for the Iowa women as they get Big Ten play going again against Michigan State. Michigan State off to a really good start this year. Iowa, get right game against New Orleans. They should dominate that one. Irvin Johnson's not coming back to play for the Privateers. Might be saying Irvin Johnson, Magic? No. There was another one, like a 7-footer that came around about 15 years later, played in the NBA. He was definitely not magical. That aside, that is what Iowa has coming up this weekend. Thanks for being with us here. We will be back with you late Sunday night, early Monday morning, and we will have a lot of reaction to what we're seeing with this transfer portal as news happens over the weekend. We'll have you covered, have some shorts potentially if we get any commitments, and get you covered on that front as well. We're with you every day throughout the course of the week, your team every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network. A lot going on. Hank Brown is in. What does that mean at quarterback? We will continue to talk about that as portal season is upon us. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Talk to you again on Monday. Go Hawks.